Folks, I have adopted the responsibility here on the internet as a digital Paul Revere of sorts. And any time that I see something on the horizon, it is my responsibility to clock it and then communicate that issue to you at home. And a couple of years ago, a movement started around the time that Matt Ishbia became the owner of the Phoenix Suns. And then they do the Kevin Durant trade. And then eventually they go and get Bradley Beal. Everybody knew that they were going to fall on their face and that it wasn't going to work. And then eventually the band was going to break up. And as soon as that breakup happened, the Detroit Pistons had to be the ones to swoop in on Devin Booker. And we didn't really know when that was going to happen, but we knew that when the moment was right that we would be able to identify it. But before we were even able to get to that point, some dominoes had to fall. Not only have those dominoes been falling, but within the last week, the most important one and potentially the final one before the trade actually happens fell. So what happened? Well, for the last few years, the Pistons have not been allowed to move future first-round picks in any trades. And this was because I think it was the Isaiah Stewart trade that we wanted to get back into the lottery. And so we made a trade with the Knicks, and then we got Isaiah Stewart in the 2020 draft. And then for years, it was a protected first rounder. And so for years, we were just waiting for that to convey. But the Pistons just kept being so bad that it was within the protections of the draft pick. So it just kept rolling over and kept rolling over and kept rolling over. So the Pistons this season, by this point, the pick had been traded to Minnesota in the Karl-Anthony Towns for Julius Randle deal. And so, okay, now Minnesota owns the pick. We still needed to convey. The Pistons have to make the playoffs so that as soon as it does, the Pistons won't have a first-round pick, but they will be able to move them in the future. And this is important because you're not going to get Devin Booker if you're not able to trade more than one first-round pick. Additionally, it doesn't hurt that the Pistons got as good as they did, as quickly as they did, and a large reason for why they're even as good as they are is because they've just drafted really, really well in recent years, and so all of their young guys are kind of starting to blossom at the perfect time, which it just so happens that when you're facilitating a trade like for a player of Devin Booker's magnitude, you're going to need to throw in some of the younger players. The Pistons finally get to a point where, they might win a playoff series this year. They are good enough to win a playoff series this year. Who knows how it's going to go, right? And in this instance, you would have to part ways with Jaden Ivey, who, as of just recently, has been cleared to return to basketball activities, will be reevaluated in 2 weeks. So you'd be losing Jaden Ivey no matter what if you're trading for Devin Booker. But then the question is well, does that really matter? I don't know. Apparently it does, because the Detroit Pistons subreddit unilaterally decided, seemingly overnight, that Devin Booker actually is not a good idea and we shouldn't trade for Devin Booker, despite the fact that motherfuckers spent years posting pictures of Devin Booker wearing Pistons uniform shit during his workout before the draft, and everybody's like, oh, what could have been? Everybody wanted Devin Booker forever until it was kind of on the table, until it softly became hey, this might be something that can happen. And then the Pistons are so good that now we don't want to give up on anybody. I hear you. And before you start shooting the messenger on this whole thing, Pistons fans, you get mad at me for saying that all this is going to happen. You think I want to trade all of our best and all of our favorite players. You can't shoot the messenger. Would you shoot Paul Revere because he was knocking on your door? And because it was 3 o'clock in the morning and you were trying to get some sleep, his message does not matter. He tells you that the British are coming, but you shoot him in the fucking chest. That's what I'm doing. I'm telling you right now, this is happening. Devin Booker is coming to Detroit, and now that they can officially move future firsts, there's nothing else to wait for, except the notification that it happened. I don't care really what it takes. I really don't care. Can you get away with Tobias Harris, Jaden Ivey, Marcus Sasser, and picks and stuff? Do you think you can get away with that? Because I think Ron Holland he's not getting touched in this. There's no way. I think Jalen Duren is also safe. Who else would there be? I mean, you could put Stu in there if you want to make the money less weird or whatever. That would really bum me out, though. And it's you would just be replacing Jaden Ivey, a guy who hasn't made it All-Star teams and wasn't the best player on a team in the finals within the last 5 years, with a guy who was literally all of the things that I just mentioned, and also is from here and has always kind of softly alluded to wanting to be in Detroit. He's really the Max Crosby of the NBA. So I just don't think it matters. And if you include Marcus Sasser in the deal, okay, draft Tyrese Proctor. Do that. You plug the hole. It's a problem solved. I don't know. I'm not trying to do Trajan Langdon's job here. I'm just saying Devin Booker's coming to Detroit, and I think this is real. And I don't want to really reject the idea that he could go anywhere else, but just so I'm being fair, if I'm taking Devin Booker for Detroit And then if you're like Orlando or you're Houston, you're like, hey, actually, we kind of wanted to get in on the Devin Booker sweepstakes because we could also put together a pretty compelling offer for him that I think Phoenix would be willing to listen to. And even if I think that that's probably true, it's a good assessment. I have an idea. I have a proposal, Magic fans and Rockets fans and anybody else who wanted to get in on the Devin Booker sweepstakes. Jordan Poole. You can have Jordan Poole. The constituency will give you Jordan Poole. You guys can go after him. Guy who has a point guard's body, but isn't really an offensive engine per se, can score a good amount of points, like medium cares. It kind of on a nightly basis. Does Jordan Poole care? I don't know. Medium, I would say. Medium, he cares. You guys can just go get him. But then I was like trying to zoom out on the whole thing, and I was like, is Devin Booker like exactly what Detroit needs, or am I just beating this drum because I've been doing it forever and I just have been shooting the shot for so long I just really wanted to go in? And so I was thinking more critically about that. And so I threw together a list of guys that if the Pistons want to do a big swing and they're like, hey, young cores are made to be exploded and we want to go get a bigger fish in a conference that, like, compared to the West, the East is more, I don't want to say wide open, but it is more like, hey, if you can make a big trade and you can pair Cade with like some capital G guy, the quicker you can do that and the quicker that you can compete with like Boston or Cleveland, you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it now. Especially in an off season that's shaping up to have, like, I mean, the potential for just a frenzy of trades for, like, real players. The possibilities are undeniable. So if it's not Devin Booker, could it be Lauri Markkanen? Jacob, a.k.a. Rusty Buckets, was talking about him the other day, and I'm listening to him, and some things they were saying was just kind of sticking out to me. Lauri Markkanen is at his best when he's a play finisher. A play finisher. And I was like, what if you put him with Cade? And Cade just had a guy who was like big as fuck and could score over everybody. And then you also think about it in the sense that, okay, what makes Cleveland so successful? What makes like Oklahoma City so successful? Double bigs. Nobody can stop their double bigs. Well, the Pistons don't really have that right now. So do you want to put Lauri Markkanen next to Jalen Duren so that Jalen Duren has got it covered on defense? Then Lauri Markkanen's got it covered on defense too. But like also he's going to hit like 4 threes. Or maybe you're like, I don't really want to have to deal with Danny Ainge because whoever like becomes trade partners with the Utah Jazz and they overcome being strong-armed by Danny Ainge in that deal, props to them. But let's say you don't want him. Who else could it be? Let's use the same logic. Jaren Jackson Jr. You want to do the double bigs, like, you're not scoring on us within 10 feet of the rim. You're just not. Do Jaren Jackson. Memphis in, like, a sort of cleansing state right now. Taylor Jenkins kind of gets, like, he just gets usurped by an assistant coach and maybe also a little bit Ja Morant. Some weird stuff is going on there. Is it worth it for the Pistons to swoop on that and maybe get involved? And because it's like you're not going to go after Ja Morant, but Jaren Jackson Jr., I don't know. What about Bam Adebayo? You don't want Bam Adebayo? It's the same logic. Just give Cade a big man. Or you want to get as sick as you can possibly get. You want to get disgusting and you want to get nasty. Well, if I'm doing the logic that I use for Jaren Jackson Jr., which is like, I don't know, the coach just got fired and clearly people are fucking mad about something that we don't know about yet. Well, I would look at Denver. I would look at a Nuggets team that just fired Mike Malone with like 4 games left in the season and really nobody can figure out why. And my whole thing is like, well, this doesn't happen if Jokic doesn't co-sign it. And then what happens in the first game that Mike Malone isn't the coach? Jokic is in the huddle with like a fucking clipboard. And then before or after the game, he was asked something about the timeline of how he found out and when he found out. He's like, oh, yeah, I found out just a little bit before everybody else. But, yeah, the GM, there's somebody, the owner, let me know. And then I was like, oh, damn. And then they told everybody, really? Wow. Nikola Jokic knew before everybody else. That's crazy. Did he? Probably because he was the one who was like, hey, let's fire Mike Malone. The other reason I'm bringing all of this up is to say, like, that is an indicator of someone in distress. And so do you want to get fucking disgusting and sick and nasty? And you look at a Pistons team that is able to trade future firsts in an aggregate form like for the first time in how many years? You want to just package up as many as you possibly can with whatever players, and you let Cade Cunningham and Nikola Jokic run the East? Do you do that? I don't care who goes. I do not care. You could include Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey, you could put Sada Baby in there. You could put Baby Tron in there. You could put Eminem in there, or you just do the Devin Booker thing. As I have foreseen it to happen. Devin Booker, a Detroit Piston. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this?